Hey everyone, welcome back to English Vibes.
Hi, we're so excited you're here today.
I'm John.
And I'm Maya. We're here to help you practice speaking English naturally.
If you enjoy our videos, don't forget to hit subscribe and give us a thumbs up.
Yes, please, it really helps us. So today, we're talking about Greenland.
That's right, we'll discuss this fascinating place, its geography, culture, climate, and why it's been in the news lately.
This is a great topic because Greenland is such a unique and interesting place that many people don't know much about.
Exactly, so let's get started. Maya, where exactly is Greenland?
Greenland is the world's largest island, located between the Arctic and Atlantic Oceans, east of Canada and northwest of Iceland.
So it's in the far north, right? Near the North Pole?
Yes, it's in the Arctic region. Most of Greenland lies above the Arctic Circle, which means it experiences extreme seasons.
What does that mean, extreme seasons?
In summer, parts of Greenland have 24-hour daylight. The sun never sets. This is called the midnight sun. In winter, they have polar night, 24 hours of darkness.
Wow, so in winter the sun doesn't rise at all?
In the northernmost parts, exactly. It's dark all day for weeks or even months, depending on how far north you are.
That must be challenging. Now, a lot of people get confused. Is Greenland part of Denmark or is it independent?
Great question. Greenland is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. It has its own government and handles most of its own affairs, but Denmark manages foreign policy and defense.
So it's like semi-independent.
Exactly. It has home rule, which means self-governance in many areas. You could say it's politically tied to Denmark, but culturally distinct.
Now, let's talk about something confusing. Why is Greenland called Greenland when it's mostly covered in ice?
That's a famous question. The name comes from Viking explorer Eric the Red, who settled there around 985 AD. He supposedly named it Greenland to attract settlers.
So it was basically false advertising?
Pretty much, though the coastal areas where Vikings settled were greener than Iceland. But yes, about 80% of Greenland is covered by the Greenland ice sheet.
What's an ice sheet?
An ice sheet is a massive layer of ice covering land, much thicker and larger than a glacier. The Greenland ice sheet is up to 3 kilometers thick in some places.
That's incredible. How big is Greenland?
Greenland is about 2.16 million square kilometers, making it the world's largest island. But despite its huge size, it has a very small population.
How many people live there?
Only 56,000 people. Most of them live along the southwest coast, where the climate is slightly milder.
So the population density must be incredibly low.
It's one of the least densely populated places on Earth. Most of the interior is uninhabitable ice sheet, so everyone lives in coastal towns.
What's the capital city?
The capital is Nuuk, which has about 19,000 people, roughly a third of Greenland's entire population.
What language do they speak in Greenland?
The official language is Greenlandic, also called Kalaallisut, which is an Inuit language, but most people also speak Danish and many speak English.
What's Inuit?
The Inuit are the indigenous people of the Arctic, including Greenland, Canada, and Alaska. About 90% of Greenlanders are Inuit or of mixed Inuit-European descent.
So Greenland has a strong indigenous culture.
Absolutely. Inuit culture, traditions, and language are central to Greenlandic identity. Traditional practices like hunting and fishing are still important.
Now, let's talk about the climate. How cold is Greenland?
It varies. Coastal areas in the south can be relatively mild, with summer temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. But the interior ice sheet is extremely cold year-round.
What about winter temperatures?
Winter temperatures along the coast typically range from -10 degrees Celsius to -20 degrees Celsius, or 14 degrees Fahrenheit to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. But in the interior, it can drop to -50 degrees Celsius or -58 degrees Fahrenheit or lower.
That's unbelievably cold. How do people survive in those conditions?
Modern towns have heated buildings and people wear specialized cold weather gear. Traditionally, Inuit people developed incredible survival techniques for Arctic conditions. What kind of wildlife lives in Greenland? Greenland has fascinating Arctic wildlife. Polar bears, Arctic foxes, reindeer, musk oxen, seals, whales, and many seabirds.
Polar bears? Are they common?
They're found mainly in the northeast and north. You might say, Greenland is home to polar bears, or polar bears roam the northern regions.
What about marine life?
The waters around Greenland are rich with marine life, various whale species, seals, walruses, and lots of fish. Fishing is a major industry.
Speaking of economy, what do people do for work in Greenland?
The economy largely depends on fishing and seafood exports. That's about 90% of exports. Tourism is growing, and there's mining for minerals like zinc and gold.
Is Greenland wealthy or poor?
It's complicated. Greenland receives substantial financial support from Denmark. The standard of living is decent in towns, but unemployment and social issues exist, especially in smaller settlements.
Now let's discuss tourism. Can people visit Greenland?
Absolutely. Greenland is becoming an increasingly popular tourist destination, especially for people interested in Arctic adventures and nature.
What can tourists do there?
You might say tourists can see the northern lights, you can go dog sledding, there are opportunities for whale watching, or you can witness massive icebergs.
What's dog sledding?
Dog sledding is traveling on a sled pulled by a team of dogs, traditionally used for transportation in the Arctic. Now it's both practical transport in remote areas and a tourist activity.
What are the northern lights?
The northern lights, or aurora borealis, are colorful light displays in the sky caused by solar particles. Greenland is one of the best places to see them.
What other tourist activities are popular?
Hiking, ice fishing, visiting Inuit villages, glacier tours, kayaking among icebergs, and experiencing the midnight sun in summer.
It sounds like an adventure destination.
Definitely, but it's not cheap. You might say, Greenland is an expensive destination, or tourism in Greenland caters to adventurous travelers.
Now let's talk climate change in Greenland. Why is Greenland important in climate discussions?
Greenland's ice sheet is melting at an accelerating rate due to climate change. This is significant because it contributes to global sea level rise.
How much is it melting?
Greenland loses about 280 billion tons of ice per year on average. You could say the ice sheet is melting rapidly, or Greenland is losing ice at an alarming rate.
What happens if the entire ice sheet melted completely?
If the entire Greenland ice sheet melted, global sea levels would rise by about 7 meters, 23 feet. That would be catastrophic for coastal cities worldwide.
That's terrifying. Is it going to melt completely?
Not immediately, but scientists say the ice sheet is at a tipping point, or climate change is accelerating ice loss in Greenland.
What effects does this have on Greenland itself?
Melting ice is actually opening new opportunities, new areas for mining, easier shipping routes, and potential for oil exploration. But it's also disrupting traditional ways of life.
How is it disrupting traditional life?
Changing ice conditions make traditional hunting more dangerous. Wildlife patterns are shifting. Indigenous communities say our traditional knowledge is becoming less reliable, or the ice is unpredictable now.
That's a real impact on people's lives. Now, let's discuss recent political news. Why has Greenland been in the news lately?
In recent years, there's been discussion about Greenland's independence from Denmark and various geopolitical interests in the region.
What do you mean by geopolitical interests?
Geopolitical means relating to politics influenced by geography. As Arctic ice melts, Greenland becomes more strategically important for shipping routes and resources.
Didn't a U.S. president once talk about buying Greenland?
Yes, in 2019, President Trump suggested purchasing Greenland. Denmark and Greenland's government rejected the idea, with Greenland's premier saying Greenland is not for sale.
Can countries even buy other countries these days?
Not really. It's extremely rare in modern times. The proposal was controversial. You might say the proposal was met with surprise and rejection, or it highlighted Greenland's strategic importance.
Why would anyone want to buy Greenland?
Greenland has strategic military value, valuable mineral resources, potential oil and gas reserves offshore. You could say Greenland is rich in natural resources, or the melting ice is revealing mineral deposits.
Does Greenland want independence from Denmark?
Many Greenlanders support eventual independence, but it's complicated. You might say there's growing interest in independence, or Greenland is moving toward greater autonomy.
What's stopping independence?
Economic dependence on Denmark is the main challenge. Denmark provides about 60% of Greenland's government budget. You could say economic viability is a major obstacle to independence.
So Greenland would need to develop its economy first.
Exactly. They'd need to develop resources, build infrastructure, and become financially self-sufficient. It's a gradual process.
Now, let's talk about interesting facts about Greenland. What should people know?
Greenland has no roads connecting its towns. Each settlement is isolated. You can only travel between towns by boat, plane, or dog sled.
No roads at all between towns?
Nope. The terrain and climate make road construction incredibly difficult and expensive. Within towns there are roads, but no highways connecting different towns.
That's fascinating. What else?
Greenland has its own time zones, actually 3 of them, and despite being the world's largest island, it has no McDonald's or similar chain restaurants.
No McDonald's? That's unusual.
The small population and remote location make it economically unviable for most international chains. Local businesses dominate.
What about internet and modern technology?
Surprisingly good internet in major towns. You might say Greenland is more connected than you'd think. Or, despite its remoteness, Greenland has modern communications.
What's the cuisine like in Greenland?
Traditional Greenlandic cuisine is based on what's available. Lots of seafood and game meat. Seal, whale, fish, shrimp, and reindeer are common.
Seal and whale meat?
Yes, it's part of traditional Inuit diet and culture. You might say traditional foods include seal and whale, or hunting remains culturally important.
Is that controversial?
Internationally, yes, but Greenlanders argue it's sustainable subsistence hunting, part of their culture for thousands of years. It's a sensitive topic.
What modern foods do people eat?
Imported foods are available, but expensive. You might say fresh produce is imported and costly, or food prices are high due to remote location.
Now let's discuss education and lifestyle. What's daily life like?
In towns like Nuuk, life is relatively modern. People work in offices, go to schools and universities, shop in supermarkets. But in smaller settlements, life is more traditional.
Do children go to school?
Yes, education is free and compulsory. You could say Greenland has a good education system, or students can pursue higher education in Greenland or Denmark.
What about healthcare?
Basic healthcare is available, but serious medical cases often require transport to Denmark. You might say healthcare is limited in remote areas, or complex medical procedures require travel to Denmark.
How do people heat their homes in such a cold climate?
Mostly imported oil and hydroelectric power. You could say energy costs are high, or Greenland is investing in renewable energy sources.
What about renewable energy?
Greenland has huge potential for hydropower from melting ice and rivers. Some towns already run primarily on hydropower.
Now, let's discuss challenges Greenland faces. What are the major issues?
High rates of suicide, especially among young people, alcohol abuse, housing shortages in growing towns, and balancing modernization with traditional culture.
Why are suicide rates high?
It's complex. Social change, identity issues, isolation, limited opportunities in small settlements, and harsh living conditions all contribute. It's a serious public health crisis.
That's heartbreaking. What about housing?
As people move from small settlements to towns like Nuuk seeking opportunities, there's not enough housing. You could say there's a housing shortage in major towns, or affordable housing is scarce.
Now let's discuss the relationship between Greenland and other countries. Besides Denmark, who else is interested in Greenland?
China has invested in mining projects, the U.S. maintains a military base at Thule, and Russia has Arctic interests nearby. You might say Greenland is geopolitically important, or major powers are interested in Arctic resources.
What's at the Thule base?
Thule Air Base is a U.S. military installation in northern Greenland, important for missile warning systems and Arctic operations. It's been there since the 1950s.
Does Greenland benefit from this attention?
Potentially, investment in infrastructure and resource development could boost the economy, but there are concerns about sovereignty and environmental impact.
What environmental concerns?
Mining can damage fragile Arctic ecosystems. Oil drilling risks spills, and development threatens traditional hunting grounds. You could say, development poses environmental risks, or there's tension between economic development and environmental protection.
Now let's practice some useful phrases about Greenland. How do you express surprise about facts?
I had no idea Greenland was so big, or I didn't know Greenland was part of Denmark, or it's surprising that so few people live there.
How do you express interest in visiting?
I'd love to visit Greenland someday. Greenland is on my bucket list. I'm fascinated by Greenland, or I want to see the northern lights there.
How do you ask someone if they've been there?
Have you ever been to Greenland? Or have you visited Greenland? Or do you know anyone who's been to Greenland?
How do you describe Greenland to someone who knows nothing about it?
Greenland is the world's largest island. It's mostly covered in ice. It's part of Denmark, but has its own culture. Or it's one of the most remote places on Earth.
How do you talk about the climate?
Greenland has an Arctic climate. It's extremely cold most of the year. The weather is harsh, or climate change is dramatically affecting Greenland.
Now let's do a practice conversation. Imagine someone asks you about Greenland. I'll start. I heard Greenland is melting. Should we be worried?
Yes, it's a serious concern. Greenland's ice sheet is melting at an accelerating rate due to climate change. This contributes significantly to sea level rise, which threatens coastal communities worldwide. Scientists are closely monitoring the situation.
Is anyone actually living there while all this is happening?
Absolutely. About 56,000 people call Greenland home, mostly Inuit people living in coastal towns. They're experiencing the effects firsthand: changing ice conditions, wildlife shifts, and unpredictable weather patterns that affect their traditional ways of life.
What's it like to live there?
Life in Greenland is unique. In towns like Nuuk, you have modern amenities like internet and shops, but you're surrounded by stunning Arctic landscapes. In winter, you might experience 24-hour darkness, and in summer, the midnight sun. It's not for everyone, but those who live there often love the close-knit communities and connection to nature.
Great answers. Now let's do our vocabulary review.
Yes, let's explain all the important terms about Greenland.
First word, Arctic. The Arctic is the northernmost region of Earth, characterized by ice, snow, and cold temperatures.
Greenland is in the Arctic region, or Arctic wildlife includes polar bears and seals.
The Arctic Circle marks the latitude above which you can experience midnight sun and polar night.
Next word, ice sheet. An ice sheet is a massive layer of ice covering land, much larger than a glacier.
The Greenland ice sheet covers 80% of the island, or ice sheets can be kilometers thick.
Ice sheets are so heavy they depress the land beneath them.
Next, autonomous. Autonomous means having self-government or independence within a larger political entity.
Greenland is an autonomous territory of Denmark, or it has autonomous rule over internal affairs.
Autonomous doesn't mean completely independent, but having control over certain areas.
Next word, indigenous. Indigenous means native to or originating from a particular place.
The Inuit are indigenous to Greenland, or indigenous cultures have lived there for thousands of years.
Indigenous people have ancestral connections to the land.
Next, tundra. Tundra is a cold, treeless Arctic region with permafrost and low-growing vegetation.
Greenland's coastal areas are tundra, or only hardy plants survive in the tundra.
Tundra has a very short growing season and harsh conditions.
Next word, permafrost. Permafrost is ground that remains frozen year-round, often for thousands of years.
Permafrost is melting due to climate change, or much of Greenland sits on permafrost.
Permafrost, when melts, can release greenhouse gases and destabilize buildings.
Next, geopolitical. Geopolitical means relating to politics influenced by geographical factors.
Greenland has geopolitical importance, or its location has geopolitical significance.
Countries care about Greenland partly because of where it's located strategically.
Next word, subsistence. Subsistence means obtaining the minimum food and shelter necessary for survival.
Many Greenlanders practice subsistence hunting, or subsistence fishing provides food for families.
Subsistence activities are for survival, not commercial profit.
Next, sovereignty. Sovereignty is supreme power or authority, especially the authority of a state to govern itself.
Questions about Greenland's sovereignty are debated, or who has sovereignty over Arctic resources.
Sovereignty is about who has ultimate control and decision-making power.
Last word, Aurora Borealis. Aurora Borealis, or northern lights, are colorful lights in the sky caused by solar particles interacting with Earth's atmosphere.
The aurora borealis is visible from Greenland, or we saw the northern lights.
Aurora Borealis appears as dancing curtains of green, purple, and pink light.
So we learned Arctic, ice sheet, autonomous, indigenous, tundra, permafrost, geopolitical, subsistence, sovereignty, and aurora borealis.
These are 10 essential words for talking about Greenland.
With this vocabulary, you can discuss Greenland's geography, politics, culture, and climate change.
Greenland is such a fascinating place, remote, beautiful, and increasingly important in global discussions.
Now it's your turn. We have a question for you.
Write in the comments, would you like to visit Greenland? Why or why not? Are you interested in the northern lights, the ice, the wildlife, or does the extreme cold put you off?
Tell us in the comments. We love hearing from you.
And if you've been to Greenland, please share your experience.
Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.
And turn on notifications so you never miss a video.
Keep practicing your English every day. You're doing amazing.
And maybe learn more about our fascinating world while you practice.
See you in the next video.
Goodbye, everyone. Stay curious. Quick vocabulary review. Number 1. Arctic, northernmost region of Earth with ice and cold. Number 2. Ice sheet, massive layer of ice covering land. Number 3. Autonomous, having self-government within a larger entity. Number 4. Indigenous, native to or originating from a place. Number 5. Tundra, cold, treeless Arctic region. Number 6. Permafrost, ground that remains frozen year-round. Number 7. Geopolitical, politics influenced by geography. Number 8. Subsistence, obtaining minimum food and shelter for survival. Number 9. Sovereignty, supreme authority to govern. And number 10. Aurora Borealis, the northern lights in the sky.